Welcome to the Arts, AV, and Communication session of the GPS for Success Virtual Career Fair. This event was made possible through hard work, dedication, and collaboration of WPBS, Jefferson Lewis and St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES, The Workplace, the Watertown Chamber of Commerce, Jefferson County Economic Development, and through the support of the Northern New York Community Foundation and Afgratech, makers of Aminomax. A very special thanks to Jefferson Lewis BOCES for making this virtual career fair a reality. We are so happy that you could join us. My name is Mark Taylor, and I'm the principal at Case Middle School in Watertown, New York. I will be your moderator for this session. I am here to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. Your panelists for today's session are Mark Prasoon from WPBS, Julie Palmer from Sight and Sound, and Ricky Lenhart from Otis Technologies. Here's how the session will work. Each panel will be sharing different career options and possibilities in the arts, AV, and communication cluster, as well as some interesting facts about their industry that they think you should know. Make sure you're paying attention in case you have a question. Once the panelist has finished, we will have a short question and answer session before moving on to the next panelist. You can ask questions about the presentation using the Q&A panel. All you need to do is open the Q&A panel, type in your question, and send it. You can do this during or after the presentation. Please know if you type a question during a panelist's presentation, it will not be answered until the end of their presentation. You can also raise your hand during a presentation if the question you would like to ask is better asked verbally. To raise your hand, you're going to look at the bottom of your screen and you're going to click the button with the three little dots. You will see an option that will let you raise your hand. If you have a question you would like to ask verbally, please be respectful. The moderator will then unmute you and can ask your question. After you've met all our panelists and the session ends, make sure to check out mygpsforsuccess.com to learn more about the 16 different career clusters. It's a lot from me. Let's get started from our first panelist, Mark Prasoon from WPBS. Take it away, Mark.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And yeah, we hope we'll have some more students joining during the time we're presenting. I don't have any materials to present. I was just going to talk for a few minutes and invite questions. And so, Meadow, if you're alone and if you're the only student when I'm finished, then you'll have lots of time to ask questions if you wish at that point. I guess first thing I would say is this sector, which of course is a, you know, I mean, it's a big, there's a lot in arts, AV, and communications. You know, that is a wide swath of different fields and industry sectors. So obviously, each student, each person is going to have a sense over time of a particular direction if they're attracted to the area in which they want to go. I personally have worked literally since I got out of grad school, so 30 years or more than 30 years ago, have been working in television, broadcast, and film production. Those are two pretty closely linked areas, but even those are separate. And then of course, there's the whole field of broader media production now, using all the digital tools and social media and digital platforms and so forth, which is a whole industry and sector unto itself. So I guess the first thing I would say is to talk about what I think the value of education, including post-secondary, whether that's in a training setting, college, university, whatever. I do think for people going into this field, there is a lot of merit in that. And I guess I speak from personal experience. Back in the day when I was getting into it, the majority of the people working in the sector did not have post-secondary training in related areas. In other words, if you went to a TV station, for example, as I did, 30 odd years ago, the number of people who actually went to university or college and studied television production or media production or related areas would be maybe 10 or 20%, if that. That has changed, though. I think more as you know, post-secondary engagement and enrollment has grown over time, and as these sectors have become more vibrant and more clearly offering career paths, more people are going down that road. So I always encourage that, because I mean, it's not that you can't get into the arts or communication sector without that post-secondary training, but I think it does add a lot, and it's also important. Certainly, speaking personally, it allowed me to try some different things and kind of figure out where my niche was, which really was ultimately around the business side, not the creative. And that's where I've followed since, and had a good career doing that, and continue to do that now as a general manager at WPBS. The second thing I'd say is that the field is, there's a lot of zigzags as opposed to straight lines in a career in this sector. And I suspect the other panelists might touch on this as well, that, you can go down a particular path, things change, technologies change, you work for a company that gets bought or, doesn't survive change or whatever, and then you go on to something else. And so it's a pretty fluid and dynamic sector. And I would say it largely always has been, which is different than, there are many other sectors where I think, that we talk about digital disruption, and what that's done to education, what that's done to journalism, what that's done to, many sectors of retail and commerce now. Have been, often they were fields where there was a fair bit of stability back in the day, and in the last decade or two, digital platforms and solutions have kind of upended that. This sector has kind of always been a bit upended, I'd say, and a bit fluid. So you really, and many, if not even the majority, maybe, of people working in the sector are actually self-employed professionals, entrepreneurs, freelancers. So, this was a gig economy long before there was a gig economy. The arts in particular has kind of always been a gig economy, really, going back centuries, if you think about it. So there is that aspect to it, that it isn't as linear, perhaps, as some other fields. But again, in the current economic circumstances, in the current world we're in, with digital disruption and all the massive changes that have happened across many sectors of our economy, there aren't so many straight lines anymore for someone going into a field anyway. So the other thing I was going to say is that this can be an extraordinarily rewarding field to work in, because if you're a creative person with creative talents and you want to express those, if you are like me, a person who isn't so creative but really loves being around creative people and supporting creative people to do their work and do their best work, and that's where the business side of it tends to come in. It can be an extraordinarily rewarding path to go down. And I know when I, went off to university and kind of switched gears a couple times, and then told my parents I wanted to study film production, they were pretty horrified. They thought I'd be a lawyer or something like that, I think, and they weren't too pleased, and they felt like, well, this is not a good, secure future. But I think that, that was more true then. It's less true now. But I did follow, that path, and ultimately my interest and my passion, and it worked out really well. And I believe for many people it can work out well, but you definitely have to be ready for the challenges. You have to, again, operate as your own business. Like career planners often talk about, think about a Me Inc. kind of thing, that you're taking that perspective, that you have to, assume that you've got to be responsible for your own future, your career development, and so forth. So, Meadow, those were the things I wanted to touch on. And I see your question about COVID-19. Yeah, that's well, definitely has affected how it's affected media production. Is that on a few in a few ways. Certainly, film production, as you may have heard, and it's been in the news, a lot of the, the film production, whether for, Disney or studios like, or Netflix or Amazon, all that kind of shut down abruptly in March because it's a very, it involves producing dramatic or scripted, as it's called, film and television, involves having a lot of people in a small space, enclosed space. So obviously not ideal for COVID. That is just starting to come back now. So for example, in California, there's some things gradually starting and reopening. In British Columbia, up in Canada, they just reopened film sets last week, for example. So that work is starting to come back, but it's going to be obviously affected quite a bit. In terms of television stations, let's say, or the broadcast side and, news production and the things that they do, that's also been affected, but it's carried on. And certainly here at WPBS, we've carried on. We continue to operate with most staff working from home, but not all. We've adjusted pretty well. So I think in a lot of ways with, technologies like what we're using right now with Zoom and WebEx, or whether it's, just other ways in which things can be done remotely now more easily than before. It does open up more possibilities for working through this kind of a situation. And obviously we hope that it's going to, resolve fairly soon, but this is a sector for sure, I'd say, that has been okay in that context. Now, again, that's TV and television broadcasting, film production less so. And then when you get into live theater and arts, and again, I'll cede the floor to the other panelists, but certainly when you get into those areas, that's a whole different matter. And I think I'd let them speak to it. But obviously, we all know that, music concerts, theater performances, et cetera, are just not happening right now. And so that's obviously been a significant blow to those sectors. Any other questions?
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. Pretty sure we answered all those questions. I don't see any more in the Q&A. So I don't know if, oh, Eli did that. All right. And Eli, could you just make sure that Mark Taylor is unmuted so he can?
Yes, he is. Yep.
Awesome. Perfect. Just want to make sure. All right. So Mark Taylor, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce our next person.
Video piece of it. And now we have Julie Palmer from Sight and Sound. Julie, take it away.
There we go. Hi. I am Julie, as he said. I am from Sight and Sound Theaters down here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've been down here working as a lighting technician for 10 and a half years. So I graduated college, and a couple months later, I was down here, and I've been here ever since. We've been through quite a bit. I guess we'll start with technical theater. When you decide you want to go into a technical theater position, you kind of have to choose between if you want to join the union, or and I guess if you join the union, you're going to be working more of a gig kind of rotation. So whatever comes into your town is you get a call to work that show or that concert. Whereas the other option is to get a more permanent job with a physical location, which is what I chose with Sight and Sound, which is why I could work at one location for 10 and a half years. Sight and Sound is a pretty unique theater. We're quite large. We have a 2,000 seat. Wow, let's try that again. We have a 2,000 seat theater, a 300-foot wraparound stage. So you're seeing it on all three sides of you. And we also have live animals. So we've got camels, llamas, pigs, cows. We scoop a lot of poop at Sight and Sound. We all get very used to it. So we also do 11 shows a week instead of on Broadway, you're going to see 8 shows a week. We're doing 11 here in Lancaster. So we're really making sure that you guys get some great content. We have 300 employees because, again, it's a very large building, 50 of which are in the cast and 25 of us are in the crew. My favorite thing about what I do is easily my coworkers. You're working with the same group of people for 40 plus hours a week, doing the same thing every single day, and you very easily become family. I adore these people. I adore working side by side with them. And I also just have a huge passion for theater. So the process of putting up a show from the beginning to the end is a love of mine, and making sure that if you see a show opening day or closing day, you're going to see the exact same show because we're putting in the work for you. Um, the hardest thing about this, I would say, is definitely the hours. Um, we are a job that revolves around tourism, so we're working a lot of nights, weekends, holidays, when people are taking vacations. That's when we're the busiest. So when a lot of people want to be going out and doing things, that's when we're working. As far as qualifications for working tech theater, especially lighting, I should say, because that's what I do. A basic understanding of stage lighting is preferred, but not necessary. If you know know your way around a light, that's definitely helpful. A little bit of theater experience, but it doesn't have to be, lighting or stagehand. Even if you've been on the stage or a stage manager, just having some kind of thing, understanding that definitely helps as well. There's a lot of on-the-job training here. Everything moves as quickly and smoothly as possible. So if you don't know how to do something and you ask someone, they're very eager to help you because everyone wants to see it go well and succeed. So there's definitely a lot of on-the-job training that happens. And theaters are different from place to place as well. So people are pretty open to helping you along as you go. A desire to keep learning is huge in this profession. Technology is constantly changing. So you need to want to learn how to use this new technology to the best of your ability and how it can help your theater and all that kind of stuff. And also just being a hard worker, because you need to push big set pieces, run a giant spotlight. Hard work it's people can see that, and people want to work with hard workers. If you're joining the union, you're going to be bringing in a show or closing a show really fast because they got a schedule to keep. Okay, so you definitely want to be a hard worker that people want to work with. A typical day, again, Sight and Sound's a little out of the ordinary. So a typical day for us, we normally have a 2-show day. Saturdays we do have 3 shows a day, so they're quite long. We come in an hour before the show starts, so that's 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. And we have a top of day meeting where they can tell us if an actor is ill, who's going to be playing that part. If a set piece was damaged, we need to know this stuff so the show can move smoothly. So we got all that information at our top of show meeting. If there's presets, as we call them, that have to be done, so you can place a cable the same way every single day so that actors know they're not going to trip over that cable. That's part of your presets to make this show go smoothly. We have the show. We have dinner between shows, which is about 45 minutes, and then we just do it all again. Typically, we get home between either at 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock, depending on if you had early shows or late shows. And twice a week in the lighting department, we have this thing called dimmer checks where we have to bring up all of the lights and look at them, make sure they're coming up, they're in the right color, they're pointing in the right direction. And that typically is 2 more hours added onto your day. So it can be long days sometimes. Changeover, as we call it, is our busiest time of year. When we close the show, strike night is the very first thing that happens in changeover, and it is crazy busy. We take 1 show down, put another show up. In the lighting department, we are cleaning lights, putting them back up, getting power to them, we're focusing them. All of that happens in a couple of weeks. And then we go into rehearsals, which, depending on the show, if it's one we've done before, it can be a little bit quicker. But for the most part, you're looking at 8 to 12-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week. This is where, sometimes we're flying by the seat of our pants. Things are changing. You got to work with it. It's very much a collaborative thing, just making sure that we can get the show up. So rehearsals are crazy, but fun. I love it. Let's see here. I chose this career because, as I've said, theater is my passion. I live for it. It's one of the biggest loves of my life. I adore theater and every aspect of it. I actually went to school up at SUNY Cortland. I have a degree in musical theater performance. And while I was at Cortland, I was also working in the scene shop, which is where I learned so much about technical theater. And it really ignited this fire in me to kind of appreciate every aspect of it and not just the performance one. And from there, I started seeking out technical theater jobs. And what led me to Sight and Sound, sorry, I was living in Philadelphia after I graduated college. And so I was in closer proximity to it. And I actually applied for a deck crew job and I didn't get it. And a couple months later, they actually called me and they're like, hey, we have this lighting position that we think you'd be great for. We would love for you to interview. Which is another great point, that if you just have a really good resume and you present yourself well, those are huge things in getting jobs in this industry, because I didn't know they were looking for lighting technicians. They saw my resume on file. They remembered my interview and they're like, let's get this girl back here. So yeah, I definitely think that that's a huge part in this, is presenting yourself well so people want to work with you. Sorry, let me take a drink. That is the end of my presentation.
So can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is Mark Taylor. I'm the moderator. And I just want to say that when my children, I have two sons right now, they are 23 and 26. And when they were 5 and 8, we went to Sight and saw Noah, and my youngest son is Noah. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, just with the whole, the theater and the three sides and, the animals. And it's a great opportunity. And that's a great theater and a great production. Awesome.
Yeah, Noah was actually the first show that I saw down there. Noah it's amazing. It's definitely one of our most famous shows. People are constantly asking about it. Yeah, Noah's a great show.
Very cool. I can't wait to someday take my grandchildren there.
Aw, we can't wait for you to bring your grandchildren here.
So we did have two questions. The first one is, what is your favorite shows that you do?
Oh man. My favorite's definitely Jesus. Yeah, and in case you don't know, we do original shows. So we're not doing Broadway shows that come through here. We are all original content, biblical shows. So my favorite, we actually just closed it this past year, was Jesus. It is, sorry, my throat is so dry. It is such a great storytelling show. As a technician, it was hard to work as a technician, but it was beautiful how we used technology with the actors, and we had an LED screen. There was just a lot of like working together, and it was my favorite show. Yeah.
Great. We have one more question too. How long do you get to set up a show?
Do you mean like top of day, or to like put a show up from rehearsals on? I guess I can answer both. Why not?
Yeah, let's go with that.
To set up a show, so like I said, we call it call time. So if we have a show at 11 o'clock, we come in at 10 o'clock, and that's about all we need. And honestly, top of day, it only takes us to set the show up maybe 15 minutes, because at the end of the show, we have a thing called turnaround. And if, it depends on the day. Sometimes you really just don't want to come in early the next day. So it's like, hey, let's set up for top of show tomorrow, so we don't have to come in early tomorrow. So we always set up the stage the way that the show should start. So when we come in, all we have to do is plug in cables, and we have a lot of flying people. We need to test those rigs, but that's about it. As far as rehearsals go, Miracle of Christmas is a show that we bring back every other year. So that's kind of like riding a bike for us. We put that show up in 3 to 4 weeks. It is insane. It is very busy. I practically live at the theater during that time. We're working shifts sometimes at 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Sometimes I don't go home until 2 a.m. It's really crazy. But for like we just premiered a new show called Esther, and that was more of a 3-month process. And that's just for putting the show up. There are people who work on the show for years, building the set pieces, getting the script ready, and all that kind of stuff. But for us, we close the show and we have about 3 months, a majority of that being rehearsal time. Any other questions?
No, that's it for questions, it looks like.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Julie, for sharing with us. That was some
Yeah.
awesome, neat stuff. Madison, if you ever get the chance, you want to go see Sight and Sound, go down to Pennsylvania. It's not that far away.
7 hours.
7 hours, baby. And you can stop by Hershey Park while you're down there. So next we have Ricky Linhart from Otis Technologies. Ricky, go ahead.
Remuted myself. You guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Ricky from Otis Technology. I'm the graphic design manager here. I work in our marketing department. Let's see here. It's hard to follow you guys because everyone has way more experience, it seems, than me, and has a lot more to talk about than I do. So we'll try to do my best. But I feel like I'm kind of an interesting addition to this. Otis Technology is a manufacturer of gun cleaning and cleaning accessories. And aside from that, I'm going to more talk about my job as a graphic designer in general, because I feel like that would be more applicable for this cluster. But like I said, I'm a graphic design manager for Otis Technology. I work in our marketing department. If anyone's local, I graduated from Carthage High School, and I graduated from the Bowling Technical Center. So big fan of that. I let everyone that I talk to know that, you should definitely look into that and see what they have to offer. I think there's a lot of things you can learn there early on that can help point you to a career path. Just to give you a bit of background, if you're interested in graphic design, I started when I was like 12 or 13. I think I had a ripped off copy of Photoshop that my cousin gave me, and it was kind of all downhill from there. Just always loved spending time on the computer, bringing my drawings or my ideas to life. It's a great way to express yourself. Sorry guys, I'm not as prepared as you apparently. I'm getting nervous. I got one audience member here. So Otis, to give you a briefing on kind of what we do and what I do there, like I said, we do gun clean kits, but we also own a firearm manufacturer, we own a chemical company, and then with all that, we have a huge infrastructure when it comes to inventory management and manufacturing. And we've actually branched out in the past couple of years into other areas. We sell a lot of stuff on Amazon now, so we do kitchenware and fishing gear, and just use all of our abilities there to bolster up products and push those on Amazon. So that's been a big boon for us. Our industry's kind of hit hard, so it's been kind of fun to work on other things outside of the norm. Have like 100 employees here, and we're right in Lyons Falls, New York, little town outside of Lowville. We'll get into some of these questions here. What's the best part of working for Otis? Like I just said, the best part of working here is the wide range of products I get to work on. One day I might be coming in and designing a box to hold a product for a cleaning kit, and then another day out in a canoe photographing people fishing with our fishing gear. So I'm kind of all over the board, from designing packaging, working on our website, shooting photography, shooting video. I get to spin a lot of plates, is what I say. I'm a master plate spinner. So I feel like graphic design lends itself well to people who like to dabble in a lot of different things. There's many programs I use, like Photoshop, Illustrator, and then we get into like video editing with Premiere and After Effects. Page layout, if you could do InDesign, and that could segue into, you could work for a print company, you could go back to the video and photography and go work for Mark here, who had an excellent presentation. His years of experience, I'm sure like he said, you're all over the board. Let me know if I'm rambling at this point. But graphic design just allows you to do so much. And I really appreciate it, because I feel like I'm a very busy person and a very fidgety person, and I always kind of have to find something new to do. And I feel like this career path for me really lets me like tickle that itch. It can get tough sometimes though. Graphic design and just design in general can be extremely mentally taxing. And sometimes it's really hard to just keep things fresh, come up with ideas. Creativity isn't something that you can just sit at a desk and just build. It needs to come to you. You need to build it. I have a bunch of hobbies that I use to keep my mind fresh, relax myself. I'm super into gardening. I find that a good way to recharge my mind. I do tie-dye stuff on the side. I feel like that's a good way to express art and come up with new ideas that maybe you could apply towards other things. I like to draw. I play drums. I feel like it's important, if you're in a field of creativity, to dabble into more than just what you do as a job. Branch out, and you can learn little bits and tricks from everything that you can pull together and help improve your work. It's
So,
really hard to say. Yeah, go
Ricky,
ahead.
we had a few questions for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, I didn't sit down on the chat thing. Sorry.
Yeah, basically, what's your favorite part? What's the hardest part? And what does your company manufacture?
Yeah, thanks for steering me back on course here. So I'll just run through these. So what's my favorite part of my job? Like I said, I love how I can come in one day and be working on one project, and the next day I can just be doing something completely different. I like problem solving. I get to work very close with our manufacturing department next door. And there's a lot of opportunity there to combine my skills in art with my interest in like machinery. So I helped next door develop a late stage printing process where we can print labels on demand with variable information. If you want to know more about that, just ask. But it's really fun that I get presented with all these problems, and I get to figure out how the best way to slap lipstick on it is, like I like to say. So what does my company manufacture? I may have mentioned it already. We manufacture gun cleaning kits and accessories, so that I have a whole wall of stuff over there I could show you, but mostly we pride ourselves in pull-through bore cleaning, which essentially is you're pulling a cable through the bore of a rifle, and it has a brush that falls up behind it and kind of brushes it out. If you can imagine that. What's the next question here? What's the hardest part of my job? Well, the hardest part of my job is also the most enjoyable part of my job, is that I have a lot of things asked of me, and I wear a lot of hats, and I spin a lot of plates. And like I said, sometimes you don't always have creativity when you need it. So it's important to be able to juggle your work and know when, if you have a project that you're stalling out on because you can't think of ideas, it's important to realize that and switch to something that that you can just sit down and work on and get that done. And maybe in that course of time, you can get your brain jogging and come up with the ideas that you need to finish the other task. Like I said, it's always good to recharge. I go on a walk every day at lunchtime, except today because I'm doing this, because it helps me focus on my job. How does social distancing affect my job? Well, not much. Fortunately, I have a very good setup at my home. My job already allows me to work remotely if I need to. I choose not to most times because it's easier to accomplish things when I'm here with my team. I have access to all of our products and our equipment. But I have a nice office at home and a nice light box set up there, and I have a spattering of our product line just always at my house. So You know, if I need to do an impromptu photo shoot or, you know, get some video shots of a product for a project, I will have that there. It is kind of hard working from home when I did have to work from home. Just being in touch with people, it's, as you all know, it's extremely hard to get in contact with someone who has, you know, poor internet access, or, you know, maybe they're out in their lawn doing something when it's during work hours. Who knows? I'm not going to point fingers. But, you know, that's probably been the hardest part. It's just the actual distance from your coworkers makes it hard for a team project to get completed, which most projects in a marketing department are team focused. On top of that, you know, if you're working in a marketing department, you're generally the last people to touch the product, and everyone's expecting you to get your part done as quickly as possible so we can launch. So that's always fun. And I find that it's important to interject yourself into the engineering end and the manufacturing end so that you can get a better understanding of your product beforehand, before it even gets to your desk. So hopefully that answers that question. I got some more notes here I could go over as well. You know, if you're interested in graphic design, a lot of hard skills that you could study up on would just be look at anything that the company Adobe offers. So that's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere, After Effects. You know, BOCES will teach you all of that. They have fantastic instructors over there. And then, you know, for your soft skills, you got to be flexible. It's important to be creative if you can. I know many designers that, you know, maybe creativity isn't actually their main skill, but they're very diligent and precise, and you know, that has its own worth. A designer that works with me, he's very particular and very consistent, and I feel like I'm more of like all over the board creative, and we kind of really work with each other and complement each other. Yeah, I mean, any more questions? Anything else I can cover? Just let me know. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah.
I think Mark is trying to say something.
I wasn't sure. I think it's just,
oh, there we go.
we're just wrapping it up now because there's
Yeah.
nobody else.
No, that was it.
Oh, great. Well, I'd like to thank the presenters for sharing with us their information. A lot of good stuff. And I hope everybody stays well and stays safe during this weird time. And I think we're moving in a great direction, one day at a time.